Dear learners, welcome to my channel Educare Horizon. In this video, we are going to discuss Employees State Insurance Act 1948, popularly called as ESI Act 1948. ESI Act is a landmark in the history of Social Security of India. Its object is to introduce social insurance, providing for certain benefits to employees in the case of sickness, maternity, and employment injury, and for certain other matters in relation thereto. These benefits are secured by financial contributions to the scheme, both by employers and employees. The Act extends to the whole of India, including the state of Jammu and Kashmir. Employees State Insurance Corporation, ESI Corporation. The Employees State Insurance Scheme being administered by the Employees State Insurance Corporation, which has been set up by the central government under this act. The ESI Corporation is a body corporate having perpetual succession and common seal, and shall by the said name sue and be sued. So the Employees State Insurance Act is administered or implemented through ESI Corporation set up by the central government as per section 3 of the ESI Act 1948. The ESI Corporation is a body corporate having perpetual succession and common seal, and be sued and be sued. Constitution of the ESI Corporation. The ESI Corporation shall consist of the following members, namely, first one, a chairman to be appointed by the central government. Second one, a vice chairman to be appointed by the central government. Third one, not more than 5 persons to be appointed by the central government. Fourth one person each representing each of the states in which this act is in force to be appointed by the state government concerned. One person to be appointed by the central government to represent the union territories. 10 persons representing employers to be appointed by the central government in consultation with such organizations of employers as may be recognized for the purpose by the central government. 10 persons representing employees to be appointed by the central government in consultation with such organizations of the employees as may be recognized for the purpose by the central government. 2 persons representing the medical profession to be appointed by the central government in consultation with such organizations of medical practitioners as may be recognized for the purpose by the central government. 3 members of parliament, of whom 2 shall be members of the House of the People, that is Lok Sabha, and 1 shall be member of the Council of States, that is Rajya Sabha, elected respectively by the members of the House of People and the members of the Council of States. And the Director General of the corporation ex officio. So the constitution of ESI Corporation consists of the following members: a chairman, a vice chairman, and not more than 5 persons to be appointed by the central government. 1 person each representing of each states appointed by the central government. 1 member to be appointed by the central government for representing union territories. 10 persons representing employers side appointed by the central government. 10 persons representing employees side appointed by the central government. 2 persons to be appointed by the central government from the medical profession. Then 3 members of parliament, 2 from Lok Sabha and 1 from Rajya Sabha, and the Director General of the corporation as ex officio. So these are the members of ESI Corporation. Then powers of ESI Corporation. The first point is employment of staff, section 17. The ESI Corporation may employ the necessary staff for the efficient transaction of its business. Second one, promotion of measures of health, section 19. In addition to a scheme of benefits specified in this act, promote measures for the improvement of the health and welfare of insured persons and for the rehabilitation and re-employment of insured persons who have been disabled or injured. Third point, holding of property, section 29. The ESI Corporation can acquire, hold and sell or otherwise transfer any movable and immovable property. It can time to time invest any monies which are not immediately required. It may, with the previous sanction of the central government, raise loans and take measures for discharging of such loans. It may constitute for the benefit of its staff provident or other benefit fund. The next one, appointment of inspectors, section 45. The ESI corporation may appoint such persons as inspectors as it think fit for the purpose of the act within such local limits as it may assign to them. Then fifth point, determination of contribution, section 45A. The ESI corporation may, on the basis of information available to it by order, determine the amount of contribution payable in respect of employees of a factory or establishment. So these are the powers of ESI corporation. First one, employment of necessary staff for the efficient conduct of ESI schemes. Then promotion of measures of health in addition to the welfare schemes or measures of health provided under this act. The ESI corporation can frame their own schemes for the rehabilitation and re-employment of the disabled and injured persons as per section 19. Then section 29, holding of property. The ESI corporation is a body corporate having separate existence and can sue and be sued. So that is why it can acquire, hold or sell or otherwise transfer any movable property, movable or immovable property. It can time to time invest money which are not immediately required. It may receive loans and can take measures for repayment or discharge of loans. It may constitute for the benefit of the staff any benefit fund like Provident or any other fund. Fourth function is appointment of inspectors as per section 45. So the ESI corporation can appoint as many persons as inspectors as it think fit for the purpose of this act within the local limits assigned to them. And last one, determination of contribution. The ESI corporation can determine what will be the contribution towards ESI corporation from both the employer and employee side. The next important point is duties of ESI corporation. The following are the duties of ESI corporation. First one, budget estimates, section 32. The ESI corporation shall in each year frame a budget showing probable receipts and expenditure, in which it proposes to incur during the year. It shall submit a copy of the budget for the approval of the central government. The next one, section 33, accounts. It shall maintain correct accounts of the income and expenditure in such form as in such manner as may be prescribed by the central government. Next one, audit. The accounts shall be duly audited by auditors appointed by the central government. The next point, next duty of ESI corporation is annual report. So it shall submit to the central government annual report of its works and activities. The last one, valuation of assets and liabilities, section 37. The ESI corporation shall, at intervals of 5 years, as a valuation of its assets and liabilities made by a valuer appointed with the approval of the central government. So these are the duties of ESI corporation. First one is preparation of estimates. So the ESI corporation in each year See, they are required to prepare a budget showing the probable receipts and expenditure, and it shall be submitted to the central government for approval. The next one is maintenance of books of accounts. Accounts as per section 33. The ESI corporation is required to maintain correct accounts of income and expenditure in such a form as may be prescribed by the central government. And next one, audit. The accounts prepared by the ESI corporation, it should be duly audited by the auditors appointed by the central government. Fourth one is preparation of annual report and submit annual report to the central government showing the works and activities conducted during the previous year. And last one is valuation of assets and liabilities. So the ESI corporation at intervals of 5 years has to value its assets and liabilities made by an approved valuer approved by the central government. So these are the duties of ESI corporation. The next one is benefits of ESI schemes. Section 46 to 73. So in this enactment, ESI Corporation, ESI Act 1948. So this is the most important discussion that is related to the benefits going to the employees from the ESI corporation side. The first one, sickness benefits. Second one is maternity benefits. Third one, disablement benefits, dependence benefits, medical benefits, and funeral benefits. Freedom from economic fear is the basis of all security legislation. The various benefits conferred by this act seeks to remove this fear from the employees. So this act, the Employees State Insurance Act 1948, provides for 6 types of benefits. First one, sickness benefits. Second one is maternity benefits. Third one, disablement benefits. Fourth one, dependent benefits. Fifth one is medical benefits. And sixth one, funeral benefits. So let us discuss in detail one by one. First one, sickness benefit. Section 46. Sickness benefits represents cash payments made to an insured person periodically during the period of certified sickness occurred in a benefit period when insured person undergoes treatment and attendance with abstention from work on valid medical grounds. The maximum duration of sickness benefits is 91 days in 2 consecutive benefit periods. However, there is a waiting period of 2 days which is waived if the insured person is certified sick within 15 days of the spell for which sickness benefit was last paid. The sickness benefit rate is approximately equivalent to 50% of the average daily wages of the insured person. So this is the most important benefit under ESI Act, sickness benefit. If the employee is having any any sickness, the ESI corporation, they used to pay cash to the employees, those who are unable to go for work and abstain from work on some valid medical grounds. The maximum duration of sickness benefit is fixed as 91 days in 2 consecutive benefit period, but there is a waiting period of 2 days, but it is waived in some cases if the insured person is certified sick within 15 days of the spell for which sickness benefit was last paid. The sickness benefit rate is approximately equivalent to 50% of the average daily wages of the insured person. Extended sickness benefit. After exhausting the sickness benefit payable up to 91 days, an insured person is suffering from cancer, tuberculosis, leprosy, mental or any other kind of diseases, specified long-term ailment, then such an employee is entitled to extended sickness benefit at a higher cash benefit rate of about 70% of average daily wage for a period of 2 years. So there will be the case of serious sicknesses like cancer, tuberculosis, leprosy, or any mental diseases or any diseases which are long term ailment is there. There will be an enhanced sickness benefit on an average rate of 70% of daily wage for 2 years. Enhancement of sickness benefit for undergoing sterilization operations for the purpose of family planning. Insured persons are eligible for enhanced sickness benefit, which is double the rate of sickness benefit. So these are the provisions related to sickness benefit. The second type of benefit is maternity benefit, section 50 of the ESI Act. Maternity benefit comprises periodical cash payments to an insured woman as certified by a duly appointed medical officer or midwife in cases such as confinement or miscarriage or sickness arising on account of pregnancy, confinement, premature birth of child or miscarriage. So this is a benefit available to women employees, that is maternity benefit. It comprises of periodical payments to the insured women employees as certified by a duly appointed medical officer in such case of confinement or miscarriage or sickness arising on account of pregnancy, confinement, premature birth of child or miscarriage. The next type of benefit is disablement benefit. Disablement benefit is admissible for disablement that is caused by employment injury. At the first instance, temporary disablement benefit is payable as long as the temporary disability lasts. If the employment injury results in partial or total permanent disability, then permanent disablement benefit is payable till the death of the insured individual. No contributory condition have been prescribed for this disablement benefit. So this disablement benefit means, see, any benefits provided to the employee caused by employment injury, any accident or injury occurred in the factory premises or at the time of performing his job. In the first instance, temporary disablement benefit will be provided. But if the employment injury results in partial or permanent disability, the permanent disablement benefit is payable till the death of the insured individual, and no contributory conditions have been prescribed for this benefit. The next type of benefit is dependence benefits. Dependence benefit consists of periodical payments to dependents or family members of an insured individual who dies on account of an employment injury sustained as an employee under the ESI Act 1948. There is no contributory conditions or any criteria in order to qualify for such benefits. Thus, in case in an unfortunate or unforeseen incident, suppose even if an individual dies of employment injury, even on the first day of his employment, his dependents or family members are entitled to this benefit. So dependent benefit, this is available to the dependents only after the death of the insured person. An employee dies on account of employment injury, then the dependents or family members, see, they are eligible for dependent benefit. No contributory conditions or any other criteria will be applicable for providing such benefits, even if an employee is happening an injury or accident on the first day of his employment and cause death of that employee. The dependent or family members are entitled to this dependence benefit. The last type of benefit is funeral expenses. Funeral expenses are made to meet the expenditure incurred on the funeral of deceased insured individual. This amount is paid either to the eldest surviving member of the family or in his or her absence to that individual who actually incurs the expenses. So funeral expenses, as the name indicates, this is an expense for meeting the funeral of the deceased insured employee. This amount will be handed over to the eldest surviving member of the family, or in his or her absence, the amount will be provided to the individual who actually met or who actually incurs the funeral expenses. So these are the benefits as per the ESI Act 1948. Thank you for watching my channel. Please do not forget to subscribe our channel. Please click the bell icon near to the subscribe button. You will get notification when we upload new videos. Thank you for watching my video.